With respect to the tenure case, what I can say is that, just real quick, there was a question as to whether or not the employees are going to be returned to the district immediately upon the adoption of this resolution. The answer to that is no. What will happen is the resolution is adopted and it has to be submitted to the Commissioner of Education for approval. Okay, so with respect to what happens next, will these individuals be returned to district? Ultimately, it will, in my view, it will happen, it will be returned. But prior to their return, the Commissioner of Education has to agree with the withdrawal, basically stamp what's happened so far. There was a question with respect to, in terms of, there's ongoing costs associated with the tenure litigation. When I was brought into the district, there were 17 pieces of litigation that stemmed from one particular set of facts. Some of those cases are moving on a different track than the tenure case. The tenure cases would be one component of the litigation. So the question is are there ongoing costs? Some of those cases are currently being handled by insurance because there are affirmative claims that are filed against the Board of Education. So I wanted to answer that. I think it was Dr. Harper's question with respect to ongoing costs, and I would say, are there costs? I would say, you'll see a report if the board, publishes it, but there are, when I was retained, there were 17 pieces of litigation that stemmed from one actual set of facts. In terms of the counsel who is on the agenda for this evening, that counsel is being retained for the purposes of investigating whether or not there was any issues related to the tenure charges. But whether or not anything comes of that is, will be something that we're not privy to, and certainly at this stage of the game, we're not making any comment on. Somebody, I think again it was Dr. Harper asked the question, and I'm sorry to steal some thunder here, but I know that there were some questions. You asked how many people are on negotiations committee. There are 4. The way it works is the board president appoints members to each committee.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am. And in terms of training, I couldn't tell you, but all board members are required to receive different levels of training as board members. Whether these, the specifics as to whether Ms. Donaldson has received X credits, I couldn't respond to you, and I would represent to you, ma'am, that I don't think anybody here can respond to that one specifically this evening. But hopefully at a future meeting you can get that information, because quite frankly it's maintained by the business office, because in order to maintain their ethical requirement, they have to continue to receive education.
They don't know how many credits they have themselves?
Oh, I just can't represent. I don't know. I will tell you, ma'am. I don't know.
They talk. And don't laugh at that. I'm serious.
I understood, but remember, at a board meeting, individual board members aren't going to be responding. When a board speaks, when a board of education speaks, they speak with one voice. So
it's usually not through the attorney.
The information's, I'm not disputing that it's available. I don't know exactly what it is, and it's possible that individuals have received, 2 levels or whatever it is, but the levels differ based on how many years of service you're on board of education. Yeah, okay.
So can it be made available at the next meeting in writing?
I'm not going to. I'm sure it can be.
You're the lawyer.
Yes, ma'am, but I'm not the one who has the information.
Well, then somebody who has the information should be speaking.
In writing at the next meeting, who has number?
If you file a request, you'd have the information, because it's absolute scope.
Thank you.
To the young man who asked the question regarding student council liaisons, in my experience as a board attorney, and I represent a number of different boards of education who have student reps, typically it does run through a bylaw process, meaning they adopt bylaws to include a student council liaison, and as Ms. Donaldson, I think, has already answered your question, the Board of Education is in favor of this. So
he's bailing.
I tried, Ms. Donaldson, to answer all the questions that I thought were closer to my zone. So.
Thank you. Wait, I think y'all answered all my questions.
I don't know, we would have to figure that out.
Because the only reason I'm asking is that we look at it, especially from the high school,